So today's video is gonna be a bit different, cause I will show you how I turn these three things and a few others as well into this here. As for what these figures are and will be, this here is and will be Tungdil from the German novel The Dwarvs. This is obviously a Nazgûl, and this is Bilbo Baggins. Well, you know who that is. If you're wondering why we are doing something like this all of a sudden, a colleague and friend of mine has this insane collection of figures. Most of them are from games, some of them are from tabletop, weird kind of things that I don't really understand, but he was planning to paint them and he's never done that, I've never done it either, so he bought the equipment and was like, hey, can you help me? I was like, sure, if I can paint my 3 figures, I can help you paint your 1,000,000 figures. So here you have 2 noobs trying their best in painting. I will show you the good things we did and the mistakes, so in case you want to try this yourself, you don't run into these problems and can avoid them all together. So let's get down to the preparations. Step 1. Cleaning. So the first and probably least exciting thing you have to do is clean your figures properly with soap water. That is to make sure that there is no grease or other substances left on the figures when we will do the grounding on them, so that the grounding paint can hold on it properly. So what I'm doing here is just throw them all in the water, rub them off clean. It's a very tedious, very boring kind of work, but it's very important. Step number 2. Bending. While the figures are still wet, we make use of that and basically dip them in almost boiling water. This way the plastic gets super soft and bendy. So if there is anything that isn't straight, like for example the spears of these guys here, we can make them straight, hold them in position, and while the plastic cools off, it will then hopefully stay the proper way and don't bend backwards again, which it will, by the way. Step number 3. Assembling. The cleaning we did earlier was not only for the paint, but also for glue for those figures that still have to be glued together, like my Tungdil right here. You want to be really careful with these, cause it's super easy to break them. I know what I'm talking about.
Nee. Was? Hast du geschafft? Ist es durchgefallen?
Nee, einfach durchgebrochen mit ein bisschen zu viel Kraft. But yeah, technically spoken, after gluing them all together, you might want to wash them once again, because you usually have some grease on your hands that you might want to get off before doing the grounding, painting stuff, but yeah, we didn't bother with that. What you see me do there is file all the things that were left from the cast. There are sometimes pieces and bits that you don't want, that just look bad, and also from where I clipped the figure out of its holding cell. Want to call it that? I'm lacking a lot of words here, but I'm sure you know what I mean. Just so we have clean surfaces for gluing and we don't have any leftovers from the cast itself. Once you have filed all your parts so that they fit neatly and look nice, it is time for the gluing. With that you gotta be not too careful, because it goes super quickly. Well, actually that means you gotta be really careful, so make sure that you do your filing properly, because you only have a few seconds before that glue is fixed and there's no turning back. If your part is on a wrong angle or something, yeah, good luck trying to get that out again. Look at that, you can't even see where it was broken anymore. Awesome. Filing in the feet so that they fit nicely to the surface was quite a bit wobbly for a while, but eventually after some careful going back and forth with the file, it all fitted really nicely. Finally gluing on the head, the very last part, then this guy is done. I was quite scared for the head, because it was really small and it didn't sit there all fixed and tight. You could turn it, and the last thing I wanted was for him to have a not straight head, you know, for the head to be bent in a weird way. Yikes, but it turned out surprisingly well and was really easy too. Look at the guy. It's a really cool and very detailed figure all together. I like it a lot. Step number 4. Grounding. Grounding really only means that you apply one base color to the whole figure, and that color should be whatever the main color of the figure is. So for example, let's take a really stupid example. If you take a tree, you could apply a brown grounding so that it would be easier to paint the bark and everything. But since the most of our figures are really colorful, many different colors and everything, we just went for black and for white as a grounding color. A little trick we are using here is to spray a bit of the grounding paint on some sort of a surface. We're just using some old cardboard boxes here, and then put the figures on it. They are light enough that they will stick to the surface thanks to the color, and since you're coloring them anyways, any leftovers that are from that procedure, like when you put them on, there will be a few paint spots, but you are painting the figure in that color anyway, so this is a really neat trick, because then you can move the cardboard box around, as you will see right now, and paint the figures from all angles. Important for this procedure is that you move over the figures in sweeping motions, as you can see me do there, and you start spraying before you actually aim at the figure, and you stop after hitting the figure, because the first pieces of spray that come out will always be more intense, and to get an even coat of the whole thing, this is the ideal way to go. Just swing from left to right, hit the start button before you hit the first figure, and release it after you hit it, after you hit the last. This is my colleague giving it a try, and I'm not showing this to talk badly about him or be like, hey, I can do it way better. I'm just doing it to point out the mistakes he made here. He was way too close with the spray paint. You can see it, how it's glittering there. This is way too much spray, and he also didn't do the sweeping motions, he just literally painted it on. It can work, but especially for larger figures, you get a way better result if you do the sweeping motions that I showed you earlier. For this golem here, we tried a shadowing technique, but we made two major mistakes here. For once again, way too much paint, way too close, not the proper sweeping motion, and also the guy wasn't dried up properly. We used that too early. The idea of this, however, is to have a very dark basic paint and then come in with a lighter paint, but only from a certain angle, not from all angles. And this shadows the thing by itself, which is really, really cool, but you will see in a second what our over-eagerness did there. I'm not sure if the camera and the video can bring that over properly, but there are little bubbles that have formed in the paint that you can see just because the black wasn't dried properly. So yeah, we should have waited. But all the other figures really do look great if you ask me. So with that, step number 4, grounding, is done. Step number 5, painting. When it comes to the painting, there are two main ingredients that will make your life so much easier. First are obviously the brushes. I had the luck of having a super nerdy colleague who bought pretty much about the best you could get out there. These things were super expensive, and he bought a huge set of really good colors too, so we were set with that. Please don't ask me what exactly the brushes are. It was some sort of army painters set all together for, I don't think I'm allowed to say the price here, it was quite pricey. But yeah, with these we were basically set. Yet still we managed to make one rookie mistake, and that is when you open up these colors, there is a bit of water that will settle on the surface. So the very first thing you want to do is press out the very first bits of it, because that'll be too liquidy, and as you can see there while I'm trying with Bilbo, the color just won't cover it. I will need several layers of it before you even see any sort of skin color there, which yeah, we later figured out what our problem was, and then it was a lot easier. Obviously, you cannot paint the whole figure at once. You have to let one color dry, and then you can go in with the next layer. So you want to start with the most inner layers first, and the one that are the most detailed, so to say, and then you move on to the outer. So while Bilbo was drying there, I used a bit of a darker skin color for Tungdil, my dwarf, and you can already see that at this point I know all about the liquidy part of the color, and it is so much more intense. Like his face, he looks like he's just having a sunburn, or he's super tan, but altogether this color works really well for him, I think. And at this point, there is not too much more to be said about the painting. There are 2 hints that I can give you that'll make your life easier. 1, don't have coffee while doing this. It's not a good idea. It makes your hands quite shaky, especially if you have a lot of coffee, which I like to do and I shouldn't. And also, you should rest your hands. Like when I'm holding both my hands up in the air, this is a bad method of doing that. Resting both either your elbows or your wrists will help you so much in getting a steadier grip on the figure and keeping your fingers calmer. It'll be a lot easier that way. But with that, I think I will leave you with a little speed up cut through the rest of the painting, and then we can talk about the next step at the literal end of this day. Let me interrupt the music here with my rambling for a second, because this is quite important. You see that I put quite a lot of details on my dwarf Tungdil already, and some of them look really choppy, right? And this is something that you will most likely run into too. It is super hard to get clean lines. But don't worry, you do not need clean lines, trust me. We will do a little trick, well, it's not a trick really, it's one of the steps needed to make this look awesome, and that will get rid of all the choppiness of the lines, don't you worry. So at this point Bilbo is almost done, and I'm going in with the most detaily, tiniest brush we have to do some insane details. Yes, I am trying to paint his pupils white. And not only is this the wrong time for details, details are the very last thing you should do, at least details of this size. Also, for a figure of this size, painting pupils is unnecessary. We will see that later. The white I am applying there to fix his collar is okay, that is decent, but the pupils, that was a total waste of time on my end there. Well, lesson learned. Sadly, I ran out of battery there, so this is quite a while later when we see this footage where I consider Bilbo and my dwarf Tungdil. Done. Look at the amount of detail that my clumsy hands managed to get in there. I am super happy with that. Sadly, Bilbo will have an accident and I will have quite some issues with his face. Yeah, I do have issues with Bilbo's face. Deal with it. But check out the metallic paints on the dwarf. Dude, this looks so cool. It looks totally over the top and fake, but the next step that'll also help us with the choppiness of the detail lines will get rid of that. Just you wait. This looks cool right now, but it'll look epic after the next step, in which we will also make a few mistakes. We haven't seen too much of the Nazgûl, mostly because he is super straightforward. I mean, he's black with a bit of metallic, can't do too much there, but this is all we have done in one day of work. There you see what my colleague was painting. We had a lot of fun there, seriously. This is a super meditative thing to do, also super time consuming. But now, on to the next step for the next day. We are out in the garden again at bright sunshine. Actually, it could be overcast, I'm not sure, but these two figures are the first we are going to apply the next step on. I just can't stop looking at the dwarf. I can't now and I couldn't back then. I am so happy with it. The amount of detail I managed to put into the guy is totally overkill, because in the next step we will lose a lot of it, but other than that, it's super amazing. Step number 6, shading. Shading is a process where you apply a darker color to your whole figure, which is supposed to run into the gaps and little bits so that it creates the effect of being shadowy there. We are trying out something called quick shade here, which supposedly you just dip your figure into it, then shake it really vigorously to get the excessive paint off, and then you just let it dry and you're supposed to get a super cool shadow effect. Let's see if it works. There you have Tungdil, and while it looks kinda gross, it also has something really cool to it. I mean, look at his pockets on his belt. They obviously have too much of the shade color, and I will luckily remove that. I did not do that for Bilbo because the instruction said don't remove it, just leave it. The instruction is dump. If you have a sea, like an actual puddle like you saw there, it's too much. But for example, what he has on his chest plate, that is perfect. Just wait until it dries. I mean, check him out. This is way cool. The figure on the left obviously has too much shading on it, but Tungdil, this is perfect. This is what you're looking for. Dark in every corner, but no puddles like you see on this figure. As you can see for Bilbo, and as you can now see also for the Nazgûl, I'm trying the shading with a brush, and you're supposed to use a really old crappy brush so that it applies the shade in an uneven way, which altogether is fine, but for the Nazgûl the shading just doesn't make too much sense. If you take it in your hand and hold it really close to your eye, you see it and it's super cool, but it's a very small figure, so yeah, I don't mind having done it, but it was unnecessary, really. So here are the results of day 2 and step 5. I'm playing this in slow motion so you can have a look at Bilbo. This is what you don't want. Ugh, I'm really sad that I didn't fix it, but I thought we'd give it a try. He has way too much stuff on it. All these figures here, they are mighty fine. This is all golden. But yeah, we'll try to fix Bilbo. It is the next day and have a look at the dried Tungdil. Wowee, this is shading. It still looks like it's too much in some spaces, but wait for it. It is because it's so glossy at the moment, and we will fix that with some spray paint that'll make all the gloss go away, and then it'll just look super cool, like he's a mixture of dirty and shadowy. Awesome. But yeah, now to poor Bilbo. He has had it rough. Oh boy. The face, the feet, the hands, even the trousers. Oh, this is way too much. We had to learn that the hard way. We'll try our best to fix it though. But first it is step number 7. Matte paint. And when you watch closely here, you can already see how quickly the applying of matte paint changes the glossiness to a subtle, really cool look. This is one easy, super quick step, but super important. Step number 8, detailing. In this clip you can clearly see why I said earlier that details like eyes are totally useless before the shading. Look at Bilbo's eyes, they're actually perfect if it weren't for all the goo he has in his face. Oh, fixing his face took me a long time. Fixing him in general, oh, that was quite a pain. But lessons learned, lessons learned. Let's get on with some detail painting. Painting the basement of your figure is also part of detailing, and oh, what we will do with the basement. The amount of details that go into that and how that kicks everything on a whole new level. That is absolutely cool, can't wait to show you. And since we're speaking of detailing, look at what I can do. I usually don't brag, but I mean, come on, that was not easy. And it looks absolutely awesome. But while Tungdil is at his best, poor Bilbo is having a hard time. I mean, would you enjoy such a ginormous brush in your face? But I finally got rid of all the dark spots, and now I'm trying to apply another form of shading to him here, because else he would just look too bright. That wouldn't look decent. And this time it works a lot better. So Bilbo is on a good way after all, even though he will still look a bit sad and or grumpy. But I mean, it is so much better than it was before, isn't it? His feet are still an issue, but I think I will solve them, I actually know I will solve them, in a different way. We will leave that and solve it with the earth. I mean, hobbit feet are supposed to be dirty and everything, so it'll turn out quite okay. And now for the detailing of his base. I am applying gold to the letters of his name. And the idea is to have these letters golden and the background dark. A cool idea, but a bit too eager for my skills. It won't be perfect, but it'll still look okay. This is Bilbo considered done. So much better. Now there's only one thing left I want to try with him, and that is mix the cyan blue I have for his sting with a shining silver and see if I can create a silver shining blue glowing metal effect for sting. Spoiler alert, I cannot. Step number 9. The base. With our figures considered done, the base is all that is left to do, and I am once again benefiting from my colleague having bought everything that is possible. I mean, look at all the stuff we can use for the base thanks to him. Oh, how do you like my pants, by the way? These are my dirty, colorful, whatever pants. I suggested doing just this, you know? This is supposed to be a thief, just put him in the grass. Awesome! Yeah, my idea wasn't approved. What you wanted to hear is quite simple. First off, apply a generous amount of glue wherever you want grass, stones or other objects to be on your base. And then you really just take the figure and put it in with all these tiny little objects. We have things that looks like stones, like pebbles, we have actual bigger stones and everything, and just like that, it already creates a pretty cool effect, but wait until we add grass. Same procedure, take our still gluey dwarf with his little pebbles, rub him in the grass, and then just shake it off roughly, and look at it. Check it out here. This looks so cool already. I mean, come on. All I am missing for my happiness is one of these bushes. You just grab them with some, I think you call them pincers, then apply some super glue on your figure, push the bushes on top of the super glue, and that is all there is to it. And the result is this. I mean, come on, it's epic. I am so happy with this guy, you have no idea. But what about poor Bilbo, you might ask? Well, okay, I did not realize how that looked when filming it. That hit me kind of unexpected. Bilbo is doing fine though. Bilbo is doing quite good. He is getting a few bigger rocks, and then you get a few pebbles. I'm sorry. I will leave that in though. That was kind of... I did not expect that. His pebbles actually follow kind of a path. I wanted to make it look so as if there was a bit of a pathway he is walking on, and altogether I think it worked out. He's also getting a lot of grass and dirt over his feet, because as I said, I did not think I should solve it by overpainting it, because the face took so long to do. But here, look at it. Bit of other grass too, the fine grass for the fine tuning, and then we have him. Looks so cool in my opinion, but obviously the feet look as if they are stuck in the earth. That's a bit too much. We fix that with a brush. Just get a few of the things off, but leave most of it on, just so that it really does look like dirt and not like, well, paint gone completely wrong. He will also get a few bushes, one in the back there, and another one in the front. And with that, we can proudly announce Bilbo done too, and be happy with him. His face is still a bit of an, well, I'm sure his mom loves it, but altogether, such a cool figure. And this is where they all live now, on top of my desk on a little shelf, together with my leather-bound iron cast signed by the author, special edition version something of the actual novel that Tungdil is from, next to my, from the same novel, The Dwarvs Stin Cup, do you pronounce it like that? And next to my plushy circling. But with that, we will be out from this rather unusual for me episode. I don't think I will do anything like this in the near future, because it was a lot of fun, but it was also very time consuming, and time is something that I am lacking the most. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I will see you in the next one. This was your personal virus, and I hope I get you infected.